Okay, it's 6 o'clock, guys. We're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Got everybody here except for Heidi. Apparently she called or talked to you earlier.
Personal matter we need to take care of.
All right. And then we have one additional to underneath personnel.
Correct.
Okay. Any other additions to the agenda? That's it?
Just
Okay,
that,
just
that
one.
addition to the agenda.
Okay. All right, we need to approve the,
Make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll second it.
we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Cheryl. Any other conversations? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. All right. Approve and correct the minutes from the March 8th, 2016 regular meeting. That was in your packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
So we have a motion by Bruce,
Second that.
second by Kella. Any other further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Financial reports. We're going to start off with the February 16th treasurer reports. It should be in your packet there. Is there anything out of the norm for this?
No?
Motion to approve the financial report.
We got a motion by Lou, and I'll second that. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Audit and approval of the bills. The additional February bill from 2016 and March 2016. Cheryl, did you have the opportunity?
Yes, I did. I went in today and had time to peruse the bills. And there was nothing out of the ordinary or anything that I had questions on. So I would make a motion that we approve the bills.
We got a motion by Cheryl,
I'll second it.
second by Bruce. Any other further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Consent agenda, doesn't look like there's anything for our consent agenda for this evening. So we'll just go move on to business, and just for everybody that's here in the audience, after each business item, if anybody has a question or a comment regarding that business item, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you. So the first one is review and consider approval of the strategic plan. This is one that has been going on for a while,
It has?
and I think Bob had the opportunity to give us some information on some of the things that he has received from the public and from employees and stuff like that. So we had the opportunity in our packet to review that. So do we have any discussion on that part of it?
There were a few questions or changes that were made. I did send that to the strategic plan committee and also ran them past MSBA people that we worked with, Jeff. So we made those changes thinking that they were good changes. I can certainly go through those. I don't think we need to go through the whole piece of that was there because we covered that at the last meeting.
Yep.
So if the board would like, I'll just quickly go through the pieces that were changed.
Sure.
I probably should have apologized to the community. I should have had this on a PDF so I could have put it up there. But we'll have it posted to our website so the community can also look at it there. We'll change it from, if the board approves, we'll change from draft to the actual plan. But at this point on goal 1, what we did was we just changed the subgroups. It was called subgroups, and really when we talked about it and some got feedback from the community, student groups is better. Subgroups does tend to lead to a sub, kind of saying that's a less group, and that's not our intent. So we just changed it from subgroup to student groups, and that's kind of the way the state is using terminology too, and it's good to keep consistent. That was the same thing on goal 2, or use animals. So we just changed objective or goal 1 to student groups versus subgroups. On objective 1, we also did the same thing. We changed subgroups to student groups. Those were the only 2 changes that we got back from people, and we made those changes. On goal number 2, it was really provide a variety of educational opportunities that allow all students to be career, and it said or college and college ready, really and or is what we changed it to, and it could be either or, both of those pieces. So that's just what we changed that. For goal 4, we just wanted to make it a little bit more specific. The old goal said initiate and develop systemic curriculum alignment. We changed that a little bit. We got some wordsmithing from community members, and it just said to ensure all students have access to standards-based education, initiate and develop systemic curriculum alignment. So it was really just making it a little bit more specific on what the goal was intended for. And I think, in fact, I think that came from our own group for the strategic plan once they looked at it. Then on goal 7, it really, again, was to make it more specific. The old goal read, integrate technology to improve student achievement. The suggestion was, and I think it's a good suggestion, to integrate technology into the classroom to improve student achievement. And then finally, we also added an objective, E, to 7. And again, 7 was to integrate technology into the classroom to improve student achievement. The objective would be, the one that we added, is to annually review and update the district technology plan. A lot of our plan dealt with the mechanics of it, the equipment, that type of stuff. Our strategic plan, which we'll start to update now because we're going to hire somebody who's going to start that whole process. That's a little bit later on the additions. But really we need to update our strategic plan, which will include not only the hardware piece of it, but also the software piece of it, but also the social media, those other things that are coming about, so that we can incorporate that into the goal, into our strategic plan, which will help be an action step to meet our goal. And those are the main changes. This is the second reading of it. I think it's up to the board whether you want to approve it, or you could go to a third reading if there's some concerns or questions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the strategic plan.
The biggest piece now is really the action steps. I think one of the things, and there was a suggestion because we've been waiting to do the works session because of, well, one of the hirings, and that hiring is now on our additions. So I'll set up the work session. One of the things that I think where the board could give some input will be I'll add addition in addition to the leadership piece. In fact, Kello and I talked about this, and I think it's a great suggestion, or not Kello, Cheryl and I talked about this before the meeting, and it's a great suggestion to add a piece to it that just says a discussion about the strategic plan and action steps. That'll give the board a chance to relook at the strategic plan, and any suggestions that the board is really looking for to be part of the action steps could be discussed at that point. Nothing, you won't have to make any decisions on it or not, but I think Cheryl and I talked a little bit about PR type of stuff just before on a conversation. Those types of action steps could be talked about, and we could be incorporated into the action steps for the strategic plan. Remember that we're not going to have the board approve the action steps. We'll bring those to the board and we'll discuss them, because I do want the action steps to be very fluid. We may try something and very quickly find out that it's not working and need to adjust it, and as again, when we adjust it, we'll come back to the board and let you know what we're doing and why we're doing it. But I don't think we want to have come back to the board every time we change a word or every time we change a little specific step. So that the board will be very involved in knowing what we're doing in the action steps. One of the concerns was to make sure that then we come back to the board and let the board know how we're doing on the strategic plan. And that MSBA, when they helped us, Jeff certainly said that that will be a part that he wants to make sure occurs, and we'll make sure that on a regular basis we come back to the board and say this is where we're at with the strategic plan. So both the board and the community know exactly where we're at.
And just a side note on, when you were talking about administration and stuff, I think we could probably at some point in time tie that to, the evaluations for administration.
It's kind of how this actually came up. Last year when I got for the evaluation, the one they sent, I got and I thought, not much I can do with this because I don't get it.
Right.
So I called down there to find out what it was, and that's how I found out how they were starting to do it. So
Right.
if it works, you'll probably want to get it and look at the thing. I'm guessing it changed, but from MSBA. But the one they sent last year, and we didn't use that. We used the one from the
Right.
previous year only because we didn't have this in place. And see, since Bob's gonna get all this done in a matter of what, a couple months?
And the other piece with that is that I think it's more than just even the superintendent. I think the superintendent's certainly a piece of this, but even the principals and
All
everybody.
When I say all administration,
Yes.
all
Everything
administration.
that we should be, so when I meet with my principals for their evaluation or anybody else, everything that we do
I think it.
in some way should be
You know,
coming
go all
back
the
to
way down
this.
to, somewhere close to where the teachers are and all that. I mean, not that we can do anything on that because they have their own bargaining group, but I mean, there should be some ties
But
to
at this,
that.
and I know that the principals work with the staff as far as our state tests and everything else, and I think it's just a natural way to have a discussion about how we can continue to get better.
Yep.
Because that's what it's all about. It's about me becoming better, our principals becoming better, our staff becoming better, so that we can better serve the needs of the students. So I'm not concerned about that at all.
So I got a motion by Bruce
I'll second it.
and a second by Cheryl. Any other further discussions? Anybody in the public? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Good job to everybody that was involved with that. That was a big undertaking. All right. Number 2, review and consider approval of Community Ed Fitness Center and PAWS salary schedule for 2015 through 17, and that is that in our packet?
Yeah.
That was in our packet.
It is in the package. You can see what the schedule will be. This would really be for the 15, 16, 16, 17 school year. It's, in essence, it does have steps in here, but keep in mind that this is only for 2 years. After the 2 years is over, really we'll relook at this, reevaluate it, determine on whether we can have steps and that kind of stuff. But I think they haven't had a step type of system so that they do get regular increases, and this kind of tells them what it is. And when Matt and I took a look at it, I think this is appropriate for what we want to accomplish.
I believe the fitness center went for a long period of time without any raises
Yeah, it's
whatsoever.
been kind of up and down
Yeah.
on how they've gotten their raises. This will be retroactive because, it's taken us some time to get there, but we're not going to hold our employees responsible for the fact it's taken us a while to get there.
Just a thought, and then I haven't really, besides just now coming to me, is we do have another group, that are the non-union group that are part of the front office and stuff like
Correct.
that. It'd be nice if we could kind of do that all at the same time, so we have more consistency of, that these aren't going to be left behind, or, because we are pretty diligent on the other staff to make sure that they're getting their raises appropriately.
Yep.
I think that even though that they're classified underneath the fitness center in a different funds, but I think in the same breath hold, I think if we keep it tied together with everybody else, I think it's easier,
Yeah, I think, to tell you the truth, I was looking at going to do that, and we're talking with the other groups, and hopefully at the next board meeting, we'll have a lot more of it, because it's just a few areas that we have to get done. I was going to wait until those got done. This is better for my payroll person.
Okay.
I mean, so that was the reason. It makes the person a lot easier because there's a lot of retroactive stuff. So as for us to do this one now,
No, and that's fine for right now.
Yeah.
I just think for in the future, so that we don't have groups and it's like, oh shoot, we forgot this.
in the step system will help us too,
Okay.
because it might be very simple as saying we're going to give the steps and stuff at this time and leave it there. So I'm hoping that'll do it, but I do understand.
Okay. Any other further discussions?
Motion to approve.
We got a motion by Lou. I got a second by Randy. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Move down to personnel, review and consider approval of a 3-hour per week for Darlene Butch as an academic specialist, effective March 28th, 2016 through May 26th of 2016.
These funds aren't coming out of our general fund, these are coming out of our integration budget. There's dollars left, so we're going to add this to the rest of the year so that we can get this going. And again, this person will primarily work in the area of math and reading to help students in either small groups or individually.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by Bruce,
I'll second that.
second by Kella. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And carried. Move on to the additions to the agenda for personnel. Review and consider approval to hire Garrick Grace for the District Technology Integration Specialist effective March 23rd, 2016.
This is kind of the one that we've been waiting for, and we've been working with St. Cloud, and I do want to thank St. Cloud. They've been very cooperative as far as helping us get this done. They needed to rehire somebody for parts of his position, and they were able to do that and release him. So today is his last day in St. Cloud. Tomorrow will be his first day in District 741. And we're excited to bring him on board. My two principals are working with the staff. I know Thursday is a work day for the staff, but we're going to try to have a couple welcome meetings to introduce him to both staffs in both buildings. Tomorrow I'll introduce him to the packet of information that I have on their technology plan so that he can start on that right away. I'll also add him to the agenda on our work session just so that we can have a sit down and some discussion about what he sees as where we should go with technology and what his vision would be. So we're excited, and I'm hoping the board will approve this one. These funds all come out of our technology levy.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
I'll second it.
A motion by Bruce and a second by Cheryl. Any other further discussion? I guess my only, and it just came to me as I was
Sure.
sitting here, we hire so many people and stuff like that, and we never really get to see them. It'd be nice to either have a little portfolio of what they are with a picture or something. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, it makes
Just-
sense,
I
really,
agree.
'cause we don't even know if we see them at a football game or anything.
Right.
Well, as we hire new people, we can certainly, I mean, it's a little tougher for coaches because they're just coming in for a season, but I think if we're going to have some retirements, we have retirements, certainly we could either invite them to the board. I think packets are a little impersonal,
Okay.
but I think to set up a piece where they come to the board and maybe just introduce that person so that the board knows it and they can give a little bit of their background for it.
I think it'd be great.
So I think in this particular case, you'll be able to do that at the work
Right.
session.
Right, but that's why I just kind of like,
Yep.
well, it'd be really nice to see some of these
I
people
don't
that
see
we
an
hire.
issue with that at all.
Okay, so I have so that was the other discussion. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried. Informational reports. WCD board meeting, Lou?
Well, we met last night in Melrose, and we went over some of the reports, the summer school, the technology, and the teacher shortage, and the ALC teachers starting at the summer school. They average about 40 kids during the summer. I think last year they said they had 40 last year, we expect 50 this year. And they just went over some of the needs of the technology for the ALC, well, actually the Beacon too. And then they give a report on the B2, the Beacon and ALC numbers. And what do we call it? I think there was 35. Yeah, I'll go over. Albany at the ALC has 13 students, Melrose has 18, Paynesville has 5, they said. We actually have 4, but they had 5. We lost one last week, last week. And Sauk Center has 3 for a total of actually 38. And the Beacon program, we don't have anyone in right now, but we have one potential student that may be going there. And Albany has 3, Melrose 3, and Sauk Center 3. And I don't have a total on the B2. Yeah, I do too. We have 21, and that's birth to 2, B2, and there's 5 referrals. And they talked a little bit about the new hires, and the lady that's going to be the new hire at Melrose is from Paynesville as a psychologist. And we did our usual approval board meeting and the balance sheet payable and discussed the handbook, and that was about it. Any questions?
I think the only thing as part of the technology that Lou is talking about is to support the people from the WCD that are working in each district. So we're looking at ways that we can support the Beacon and the ALC, but at the same time support the ALC or the West Central Ed people that are working in our own district right now. So that was the other part of that discussion.
Technology committee, no, facilities and equipment committee.
Yeah, we had 3 meetings so far, and really it's still a work in progress with one little glitch, and maybe Bob wants to explain the wall mats and the fire marshal.
What we're finding out is that the fire marshal is saying that our wall mats need to be fireproof. We're still have a ways to get through. I just talked with the superman from Stock Center, and he said that they've gone through that. That's what the fire marshal now. He said most of his make code. We're trying to figure out whether ours make code or they don't make code. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure. If we have to replace all of our wall mats, I think we have 107 one in our wrestling room, ones in both gyms, for all our gyms. It's going to be some dollars. So looks like it's going to be a little bit of an adventure for us, because we have to figure out whether the mats that we have now meet the code, because the code that they're giving us isn't the same as what we find on the mats. So
Is that something that just changed, or?
at least what we're hearing is that it's been in the books for a while, but they weren't enforcing it. It would have been nice for us to know that it was in the books and that they were going to enforce it, because if that were the case, we might have been able to make some changes.
Because then we just replace it.
We
We'll
did.
load it.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that we're contacting for the mat are just looking at us and saying, what? They've never heard of it. So, because we've been contacting the people we purchased the mats from, telling them about this, and they appear to be beside themselves on why this is happening. So that's why I say we have some information and some phone calls and probably some discussions with the state fire marshal to find out what is going on and whether we have, what are we doing to be compliant, and how does one code match with a different code, because it's a different code now. We have a ways to go before we can figure all this out. But to say we're a little surprised would be an understatement.
So we just spent that money on it. If they insist on it, we should find out who has the same color green in some other state. Send them a deal, make a deal to sell what we got.
Or
Just
Bulldogs and ask them to, we'll exchange our new mats for their old ones.
Yeah, because somebody else somewhere else, they don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. Maybe you can, they can dump them, get some money out of them.
Yeah,
If
if we have to replace them all, I don't know. We have to replace them all, because if it's a fire marshal.
We don't have any choice if he tells you.
We won't, because he can say that we're not compliant and they can close our school down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So but we have to get more information. I guess that's kind of where it's at. I don't know what else to say at this point, because we're trying to figure out what we have to do. If we have mats that are compliant, if we're gonna have to test our mats to see if they're compliant, it's gonna be an adventure.
Because you would think every other school would have the same problems.
It's just starting to come out now, because I've talked with other superintendents and they didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
I would think the company would feel some liability here too, if they just sold it to us.
The companies are surprised. That's the way I would describe it. They just don't
They would
understand.
come forward though, they would want to put their best foot forward and make it right.
again, until we find out whether because our new mats, for all we know at this point, could be
Could be
compliant.
compliant, yeah.
But we're trying to figure out what is compliant.
Yeah.
Do we have an idea what number we're thinking about?
As far as no, because we're struggling just to find
Mats that,
replacement mats that are fireproof. And I don't know if it's 100% fireproof or if it's fire resistant. So again, we're trying to figure all this out. It's the one big piece that we're struggling with right now. I think the rest of our budget is kind of in place. Randy, if you agree with that, so I think we have everything else figured out. But we don't know what that number will be that we're going to have to put off to decide if we have to replace the mats.
and obviously the mat companies don't know either.
Not right now, they don't appear to know. And so we're just kind of chasing our own tail right now, trying to figure out where the answers are. And in the end, we may need to call up, we're hoping that we call some schools that may have already gone through this, who would give us more information. We haven't gotten a ton of information from the fire marshal who, gave us the information that we need to follow through. So we're just trying to figure out where we go and what we need to do. And we're just not finding a lot of avenues to tell us the answers.
Was it 30 days? or
I
something?
think 60 days or
60
something,
days.
but at the same time, the fire marshal also said they'll give extra time. They know that this can't happen, but I don't know what extra time is. So we just need to figure out whether we're compliant or not, whether sprinkler systems make any difference in compliance. We're hearing no right now, but one superintendent that sent me some information alluded that it did. So now I need to find out which of those is accurate, because if it's, like our wrestling room, for instance. A wrestling room has sprinkler systems. But that may or may not make any difference. And what tends to happen with these types of things, there's been, I think one of the clubs had a fire someplace, and they had mats on the walls. And I think people perished during that fire. So that could have been part of what has caused this to come up, I don't know. All I know is that the fire marshal said,
But you would have thought, this is nothing new. The mattresses themselves for years had to have some sort of fire retardation on there for.
it would have been nice if we would have had a heads up that this is coming down the road, because it certainly could have made a difference in some of the purchases that we've had recently.
Right. Well, we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, we'll keep the board informed, and I think the rest of our budget is doing well as far as what we're doing. We never have, all the money that we want to get everything done. The 10-year plan has helped us, I think will help us tremendously over the next 2 years to start getting some things updated and repaired and fixed. And we'll bring that plan, back to the board so that they can review. Sorry, Randy, I didn't mean to take all.
That's fine. No, other than that, it's going pretty good.
Now, because of the change of the laws, the way that we're getting now reimbursed more monies for different things, we're able to levy for those.
Yep.
Is that, does that money actually go into the buildings and grounds, or where is that?
It goes into an account. The 10-year plan account is kind of deferred maintenance, health and safety an account.
Okay.
We can carry those funds over,
Okay.
so if we don't use them all, remember the first year we don't get a lot. The next years we get more and more. Once we get the next couple of years, we really will be able to make some dents in what we need to do to continue to work on our roofs, continue to work on our HVAC system. I think it's going to be tight for next year, that we won't be able to make some headway there, but I think the years after that, we'll be able to start. As we get things caught up to where they need to be, we'll start to be able to get more and more things fixed and more up to date.
Because we still also get the capital budget.
We still get the capital
Yeah.
budget. So what we're working on is two things.
Yeah.
It's the 5-year
Yeah.
facilities and equipment piece, that's the capital budget that we get.
Yeah.
And then there's the 10-year plan that only works for health and safety issues and deferred maintenance.
Okay.
But a lot of the things as far as roofs and, our HVAC system, all those fit into the 10-year plan very, very nicely.
How about like replacing faucets and stuff like
Yes.
that in bathrooms
Yeah.
and washing stations?
You can't necessarily remodel and you can't build.
Right.
Example, one of the things that we're talking about is hopefully making one of our courts, our courtyards, available to students. So we're looking at that. But that's a change, it's a remodel. those dollars, for instance, can't be used to do that, but our capital dollars can. So anything that you can think of that really is to fix and to make sure that our buildings run effectively can be, the 10-year plan can be used for that money. And we can have, when we bring that to the board, we can certainly clarify and answer questions and all of that.
More to come.
More to come.
All right. Number 3, Technology Committee. We met on Monday, the 21st, and we went over a lot of things. The biggest excitement was that we're, with our technology person that's coming is going to be really huge, I think, for us. And we're really excited about what he's going to bring to the table and what things that we need to start working on and stuff like that. And it's going to be a fun year, I think. The next couple of years is going to be.
I think we'll get a nice technology plan in place. I think this person really will hopefully help our teachers be able to learn how to most effectively integrate technology into the classroom with the help with student achievement. Certainly the teacher is the most important piece, but it will give them another tool to be able to use in their classrooms.
Right. Yeah, because I was just reading an article not too long ago regarding all this technology that is being given to all these students and stuff like that, and the pitfall comes back onto the instructors on giving them the time, the tools to get the kids educated on these things. And I think with this integration specialist here, I think that we're going to have a little step up on some of that stuff with helping the teachers get to where they need to be and we're comfortable with. So we also talked about a technology purchase procedure. We kind of agreed on what we were going to be doing with that. Most of it's electronic driven, so they can put their information in the computer, and it gets downloaded to the guys in IT, and they're able to see once what they're requesting, and then from there they determine, do we have the money to do it? Does it make sense to purchase this piece of equipment and stuff like that? So that process is in place. So that's one great thing. We talked a little bit about some of the server upgrades that we will be needing to do in the near future. One of the, I think, what did he say, between $10,000 and $20,000, or?
It'll be about between 20 and 25, I think, with that. We need to replace one of our servers so that we can back up our information.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fail-safe, so if you have something and then it gets corrupted, at least you have an image of that same file in another server. So that's kind of like a disaster recovery type of thing. And then eventually we will probably have to go outside, maybe into a different organization. There's about a bunch of those organizations that have the same kind of services, so they're not right here on site, so that you can, if a tornado would come out and wipe out both these buildings, at least the data would be safe somewhere else in this area. It can be anywhere in the United States.
And there's been districts that have actually had malware that they've downloaded, which have really ransomed off their information. And if you didn't pay the ransom, you lost the information. So going off-site would be one more protection against that type of thing happening. So it's too bad that we have to worry about those types of things.
Well, and there's also services, I think. Doesn't New London send all theirs to some center place in Hutchinson?
It's very possible.
So a lot of that data is off-site,
Mhm.
but it's transferring back and forth all the time.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we're going to have to continue to look at. I think we'll upgrade the server, that's one layer of protection, and then we'll have to, as our budget continues to improve and we get some of the things that we really need to get fixed, then we can look at adding some of the other things that would be to our benefit to add. But it's going to take a little time.
Yeah, we got the first start.
Yep, we do.
So we also talked a little bit about security and cameras. Administration is still, trying to figure out different ways of getting the monies for that, because I think it's around $23,000 to do the entire.
Yeah, it'd be,
Project?
we have about 23 now, it probably will be more like 40 some for us to get done what we want. We want to add cameras, we want to upgrade the system that we have now. Part of the things in administration talked in a meeting today that wasn't at the technology committee meeting, but really the desire for us to have an open system that doesn't tie us into one specific vendor. We would like to have a much more open system. That's part of our problem is really figuring out what's the best way for us to go, because once we go that way, then we're kind of stuck with that way. So we want to make sure that it's the best thing for us before we start spending, you know, $25,000 to $50,000 on security and cameras.
Then we're still having that saga with the USACs, which is the monies that we were gonna use to connect the two buildings with the fiber and stuff like that, and still.
We're struggling to get the money. They've done the work. Now we're struggling because of little technicalities that USAC is coming up with for us to get the money back from them.
Like what?
As far as the technicalities,
Yeah.
one was a date that was put in. So we've contacted what they consider to be their help desk, and all they can do is tell us, well, maybe if you try this, it might work. So we tried it. I think we're getting closer, but we may have to try something else. It's been one of the most interesting things that I hope to never do again.
You will.
Well, we have, because we're gonna put it new, because we have about $90,000 sitting out there that we're not using this year. As soon as we figure out how to get back the money that we've already done for the one project, then we're gonna reapply for the rest of that money. If we can't use it for the interconnection between our buildings, then really we have a lot of infrastructure pieces as far as wireless that we could upgrade and get to be even more effective, which will help, as we buy more technology, help be more effective in the classroom so it works better.
Won't that help for connecting to MediaCom? I thought you could use those funds to offset the cost of connecting that building separate.
And that's the
And
one.
doing it through the main system, because I know when it came up, that's why I know the deal about New London. We had this big thing about transferring data from one building to the other and how it was live. And when I called New London, they said, well, all our stuff's transferring every day back and forth Hutchinson, so it can't be a big deal. Right? So they're going through live internet systems, getting to Hutchinson and back with all their data. And we just want to transfer this to schools, which means that school can maybe go into MediaCom and you already use a system around. And I know we got a quote on that when that whole deal comes up.
Yep.
But I'd be going back to talk to them about it. I mean, they almost control the whole town. And as much as the city, we talked about working together, the city holds a contract for that. And they don't pay anywhere close to the money that it would cost us.
All I know is I can't, and we'll certainly relook at that, Bruce. I just know that what they quoted us originally, we'd have been better off running that line. One of the things that we're looking at when we go back to the USAC about this is that when we originally applied, we applied as 2 campuses. Well, I should say, we applied as 1 campus because we're a small school and we thought that's what we needed to do. Now we need to find out what if we apply as 2 campuses, whether what you're talking about will exactly be able to work. So when we go back to the drawing board, which will be sometime this summer, we'll restart to reapply for those dollars. We'll try to get an answer on whether that will work or not. I just know that trying to get an answer from them sometimes has been more than interesting.
Yeah, because the other part of it is that I think if I was understanding the conversation with the IT guys that we have here right now, it comes into one central from the MediaCom or whatever, but then it's the communication back and forth to the building. So because you have a lot of streaming of different videos and stuff like that, because both buildings aren't connected to the internet, it goes from one to the other. And I think that's where the issue comes, where we're not quite there where we're having a lot of problems with it, but we can see in the future with adding all these different technologies that communication between the 2 buildings are going to have an issue, that the pipe isn't big enough. I think the pipe coming out from the real world to our facility is comparable, and we're getting that information, but it's the transferring of data student data, the MARS, all that stuff that goes in between the two buildings and stuff like that, that's where we're scared we're gonna run into an issue. And that's, I think, is what I'm understanding how the IT is structured in the system here.
When that came up last time, the next morning when it came to our board meeting, I made a whole bunch of phone calls. So a ton of stuff is based upon your tech people, okay?
Yep.
The second thing is, most everybody asked me what data stream was going back and forth between the schools. You have to determine your data stream first. But at the same time, when you have schools that are long ways apart, going back through the main system works very well. But there are a lot of people that know a lot about what we're talking about. But we're just sitting waiting for the money. I'd probably pursue all the other options that may be available. And one of them is I just make a phone call to the city and just ask them what they're doing in MediaCom. If for some reason you can hook up to that cable, it's 1 block away from that other school. Now we don't worry about this transfer back and forth, and the transfer between the two schools, the whole thing was about losing student data and everything. Well, when I called in London, they said, that's not worried about, because ours transfers back and forth Hutchinson all the time.
But then you might have to have a duplication of your services. I don't know about that, but I think you
Possible, we
might have
may
to
need a
have
larger server to handle that other school.
Yeah, I would just say, as this all comes about and we start looking at developing the plan again, all of those pieces will be discussed, Bruce. I don't disagree with you at all. We need to look at all of them.
Yeah, but we're kind of waiting for some government agency to do it. But it appears from listening to tech people, we kind of have a need for it today, or a need for it relatively soon. It may not hurt to find out if there's another option. Maybe we just go
And
on
I think that
and
with this new integration specialist that is coming, I think part of that is gonna be his job too, is try to figure out kind of what we are doing here and is there better ways, because it's, you know, Jim is only here for 2.5 days, and then you have Jonah is here, and all, you know, they're trying to do their jobs of everything else, trying to keep everything else connected here, so we don't have that extra body probably to do some of the research and stuff like that, so hopefully with this here person, we can have him dive into some of these questions that we have about, does this here make sense? Do we really truly go down this way, or then he can probably have that conversation with Jim more about, okay, how is it set up? 'Cause Jim has been here for so long, he kind of knows how this here whole system is set up, and it could be a matter of, okay, you know, we need to replace this, this, and this, well, it's gonna cost you an extra $50,000-$60,000 to do that, okay, that's probably why we didn't do it in the first place. So, but those are truly good questions, and I think those are things that we will have to ask as we move forward. But as long as we have maybe the capabilities of having that money available to us, you know, if we could connect the buildings, that would be great, you know, with a higher cable.
I think what we want to do is make sure that we have enough of how to get into the internet, into our classrooms, enough at the most cost-effective manner. I think that's the best way to do it. I mean, we want to save as many dollars as we can, but get our needs met. If we go through MediaCom to connect directly from the elementary to that, and we can do it, and that's the cheapest, I'm all for it. If running a line between the two buildings is the most effective and the cheapest, then I'm for that one. But we have to, whatever we do, we just need to make sure it meets our needs. And not only our needs now, but our needs in the future as we continue to bring more and more technology aboard. So I agree that we need to look at all the options.
Some other things that we discussed was that they also got another cart of Chromebooks in elementary. And then we did talk a little bit about, and I think it's in August 4th or something like that, there's a technology meeting for staff that's coming up.
There's, on August 4th, it's a staff development day in Recording, or in the Cold Spring is hosting it. We're covering the cost for our staff. So we're hoping that they will do it. There will be technology. There will be a lot of topics. The staff will be able to kind of pick from the smorgasbord and do it. In fact, our technology integrationist, Garrett, will be there doing a staff development piece. So, but it's, you know, we're hoping that a lot of our staff will choose to go. We're covering the cost.
And then the next meeting is going to be May 10th. So that's all I have. Administration meeting report.
Just a few things. You guys have the enrollment piece in there. Right now, we're down 4 students from the start of the school year. It's stayed pretty consistent, and that can change. pretty quickly. I know that one family needed to leave because they couldn't find the housing that they needed. We lost 4 or 5 students on that one. So, but it's very fluid, and again, most of the ones that are leaving our district have left the district, not just gone to an area school. Just a band and choir fundraiser, that would be the fruit and spring crafts and flowers fundraiser. Revenues were $8,232.99. Expenditures were $5,297.50. Their profit was $2,935.49. So just to let the board know that that was one of the fundraisers. Facility and equipment we've already talked about as far as fireproofing the mats. We're continuing to work on that. We continue to work on next year's budget. We'll give an update on this year's budget to the board in meetings to come, and then also bring, of course, the future budget for next year to the board for them to approve. So that'll be coming up. Just a QComp update. We did get the information back from the state of Minnesota. There's some items that we need to address. They broke them into 3 categories. One is that certain areas need to meet the statute. We didn't have a whole lot of those that we needed to do. Most of ours met the statute. There's a couple clarifications that we had. The things that we need to change mostly were to clarify and make the plan clear and consistent between system components. That's where the majority of our work. So it's really about clarification that we need to do for the vast majority of the plan that came in. And then they broke it into things that we could do but don't have to do to make the plan stronger. We didn't have a whole lot of those. So I think really it's just making our plan a little more clear for what it needs to do. We have till April 18th to get that back to the state. I'm assuming they'll re-look at it and resend us things back saying, well, you took care of this, this, and this, but we still need more clarification on that. So it's a work in progress, but we're going down that road.
So what is the goal for, they have it implemented when?
Well, we'll get it, as soon as we get it approved by the board, then if approved by MDE, then it's a matter of whether there's money in the budget to fund it. When we got our plan in on, I think it was February 15th, any district that got it in, it's really a pecking order thing. The sooner you got it in, the sooner you were up in line. So if there's funds, for example, Rocori has had their plan approved for over a year. There weren't any funds to pay them for that. So I think it all depends on, as soon as we get it approved, the approval piece doesn't put us in line. It's when we sent in the original plan. But Albany sent the plan in, and London Spicer sent the plan in. There were a number of districts, I think Kimball might have sent the plan, I can't remember if Kimball was, but there were 3 districts at a meeting I was at today that sent the plan in at the same time we did. Again, it's the time that they got the plan and put it in the line. And then it's whether or not, and once they approve the plan, it's whether they have the funds to pay for it.
So if you don't get it this year,
Then we wait in line to the next year for the legislature to decide whether they're gonna add more money to the QComp.
you have to resubmit then?
No.
Then how do you know if you get it then next year?
If they have the funds and we're next in line,
Oh, then, so it's kind of like, it's still kind of a first come, first served type
yes.
thing?
That'll stay in place now until we get the funds. So it's just a matter of us, but again, because we're revamping the plan to meet the needs, we're still in the same place in line. We just need to get those revisions back to them by April 18th. I'm sure they'll look at it and say, well, he's got all these corrected except for these. Then we correct those and then we would get approval. And then we would take that to the staff, so the staff would look at it again. We want everybody to be in agreement with this, from our staff to our board. I don't want any surprises on this for anybody. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at with that. We're just working on that. The committee that I have together that's working on it, we have pieces that we need that we're all working on, and we'll put them together, and we're going to meet, I think, on the first part of April to make the changes, revamp the plan, and then try to get that out to MD. No school on Thursday, teacher work day, which means that the end of the quarter, the 3rd quarter is tomorrow. That's kind of amazing. We're going into spring break this Friday. With right now, no snow makeup days. But it's too late right now anyway, so even if the storm that they're predicting is going south of us comes north, and we had a snow makeup day, it's too late. We will not use that snow makeup day on Monday, regardless of what happens. The next snow makeup day then, if something happens between now and spring, when we won't get any more snow, would be May 27th. So that would be the next snow makeup day if something happens. State tests are soon upon us. They kind of hit us in April. Paynesville Area School received the Minnesota Department of Ed 2016 School Finance Award for the year 2015. And the criteria for that is, and quite a few schools get it, but to my knowledge, this is the first time we've gotten it. The criteria is timely submission of financial data and compliance with Minnesota statutes, presence of select indicators of fiscal health, accuracy in financial reporting, and again, we're one of quite a long list, but not everybody got it. So that's feather in my hat. I think we're doing things well in the financial area.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a feather in your hat. You have been steering this ship since you got here, and I have always believed we are going the right direction, and it's well deserved for you.
My stance would be that
And obviously people that are working.
we worked at this hard in our office, and it's really because of everybody, because we've had to make some reductions which are no fun for anybody, but they've helped our district start to move in the right direction as far as our funds getting to be where they need to be. So it's really, I would say this is on everybody's part, because to get a district on financially sound ground is never fun for anybody, because sometimes it involves a lot of people working hard, not always getting paid for things that they're already doing. That's one of the benefits for Q-Comp, is that in a lot of ways it's for staff development, but we also have the opportunity to pay some of our staff for things that they're already doing for little or no compensation. So it's a good thing. I think it's a feather in the district's hat for doing what they need to do.
So the Paynesville Press is taking it off of the video that's being made here, right? So Paynesville Press, we need a little advertising on our financial situation that our superintendent and the staff here have gotten us to. We sometimes are on the tail end of the real positive things, and I think that is extremely positive.
In the end, the board has had to agree to some of the things that we've needed to do. So we'll move on. One band concert was on the 10th, just fantastic. It was great. I've seen 2 choir concerts, one on the 14th and one on the 17th, just both outstanding. So my hat's off to our students that participated in all 3 of those events, and also the instructors for doing such a wonderful job. They were just fantastic to see it here. Hard to believe we're at the end of the 3rd quarter. That's tomorrow. The year's flying by. That's what I got.
Any other sharing?
I do have something. Sure. Okay, so we had a little discussion about cameras and all that kind of stuff, and haven't had our meeting yet of things that we did when we were down at the MDA thing, but there was a deal down there on security and lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. And Wyndham Schools and the Wyndham police officer, everything was, the whole presentation was by those in Wyndham. As I was listening to this about the cameras, it would seem to me that it might be a good time to coordinate what they're talking about in additional security and how you handle it in certain situations, along with locations of camera, and they might have data that could help us plan this appropriately. My only thought is we put a whole camera system in, and we think we got it all set, and then we have people come out and they say, gee, it's really good, but we're better if the camera was there.
Yeah, we do rely on we've had a couple of camera companies come out and help us look for where we need to put cameras and discuss what kind of cameras and all of that. Part of the thing is that our system's so old is that they're just analog, I think. They call them cameras, and they're just, you can kind of see what happened, but you can't pick out the specifics
But
of it.
these guys are police officers. They have their police officers involved with it, their sheriff's department involved in it, Toro, and all the major companies are involved in it, and their whole system of security down there. They have people that presented to us from Wyndham that had met with Homeland Security and a whole bunch of other stuff. They had a wealth of knowledge, more than somebody went and saw cameras. So maybe the camera companies have
that's
that,
something
but
we need
if
to-
wonder, I'm just bringing it up a little in advance of that meeting, only because if that's in motion, sometimes it doesn't hurt to combine that all together, and they could come here and say, here's a couple of suggestions. A
Yeah.
little bit like the same thing you did with the strategic plan.
Yeah, and really in the strategic plan, there is about the health and safety of our kids, so it fits right into our strategic plan and looking at that, because eventually, we're also gonna need to have the discussion. I think what we've done at the elementary school is really what we need to look at also doing at the high school, where we have, you know, doors, specific areas that they come in, they have to buzz it, but they have to go through the main office in order to get into into our secondary building. The problem with that is that where the elementary school is really built, kind of in a way that we can do that for really insignificant dollars for what we got out of it. The high school is a much harder piece to look at, but I think all of that needs to be looked at, and we need to come up with a safety plan that incorporates those types of things. And you know, it's one of those things that does cost a lot of dollars, but I think as we look at facilities, and if we come up with another facility plan that we want to look at something, I think those types of things could be incorporated in that also. But yeah, I think any information that we get that helps for any of the security is worth looking at. I agree.
So keep that information so when we talk to them.
Well,
Meeting.
honestly, it was really exciting.
Yep.
It really was, it was mind-boggling.
And I will try to set up the work session here pretty quick now.
Yeah, I was just thinking if that other was in motion a little faster, maybe they can.
Yeah, we still have some work to do, because part of it is certainly the placement of the equipment, that's one piece of it. But again, I would like to have as open of the system as we can, so that I don't have to rely on one vendor for all the equipment, because once you get tied to that, then it's go to that company and kind of eat whatever price they have.
And the expense.
Yeah.
We're looking at.
Again, the most efficient, effective piece that we can do at the most reasonable cost.
Yep, but all good stuff. Any other? Motion to adjourn. Okay, well, Lou says we're gonna adjourn. So we got a motion from Lou, yeah? Anybody else? Doesn't sound like anybody else wants to adjourn. So I got a motion by Lou for adjournment.
I'll second it.
A second by Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and carried.
If that's not gonna happen, I'm gonna start bringing supper.